Namaste.
Namaste.
What's up? Welcome back to the Copilots, episode 3 of the season 2 Climb. You already know who I am Topias, and I am back here with...
Vishwajad, what's up?
Welcome back. We have a lot to tell you guys, and we have a lot to discuss. So I think in today's episode, we're going to do like a status update about our lives, and on top of that, we're going to be discussing some new TU Delft policies that we found maybe a tiny bit controversial, per se.
Yeah.
And
or interesting to discuss.
Yeah, exactly. Thought-provoking,
yeah.
And on top of that, we're going to be talking about our recent travels and how it's shaped our worldview and appreciation of certain things that we may have had on our travels or potentially here at home.
Mm-hmm.
But how are we?
Sounds good.
How are we doing on this?
How are we as a community, as a population?
Exactly.
We,
the Copilots community.
The Copilots community.
The Copilots army.
The Copilots army should be stronger than ever.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you guys like, subscribe, and share this video and turn on the notification bell.
Sheesh, what percentage was it that wasn't subscribed out of our viewers?
Way too low.
Way too low.
It needs to be higher. We need more subscription, because if you don't subscribe, we're gonna stop doing this. So
yeah, exactly.
You better subscribe, or I will not
tolerate
be
it.
Angry.
He will not be angry, exactly. So just click the bell icon. The bell should make a sound like this.
That was a beautiful segue.
Thank you.
This guy has been learning a lot of swag since
have.
in his last few weeks.
I have. Segway lessons. I almost have my license ready. It's just 2 more lessons and then my exam.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does it have to do with any of your travels recently?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Vish. As you may notice, Mr. House has been replaced by a much newer, a much rounder, and a much cooler object. And this is, well, strictly speaking, I don't know what the fuck this is called, but it's a hell of a cool of an instrument that I bought from India, where I went to this winter break. I came back a couple of weeks ago.
I wouldn't call it a winter break, it was like 2 months, bro.
Where I spent my winter.
Yeah.
2023, 2024. Yeah, no, you're right though.
Winter break is like 2 weeks. This guy was there for like
closer to 2 months. Yeah.
You've been all over India. So
yeah, and not just India.
Let's talk about that, because we were discussing it, and that's been, we've been doing a lot of traveling in the last 2 months. I think we counted around 16 major cities, plus some towns, but 16 big cities.
Yeah, and I think like 8 states as well.
That literally makes you like more Indian than me.
Exactly.
You've been to a lot of places, so that's.
If you think I'm more Indian than Fish, please leave a like for the video.
Go ahead. Enough. Go ahead. If you think that I'm more Indian than Tobias, also leave a like. No failure. So,
hedge your bets.
How's it been? How was your travel to India and in India?
I really like the country. It was, how should I put it? It's sort of an enlightening trip, and I don't necessarily mean it in the like philosophical sense, like, oh yeah, I went there as a Westerner, not understanding anything about internal peace and enlightenment, but more so like it just taught me a lot about solo traveling, what kinds of things I appreciate about a destination, what things I maybe don't appreciate as much, and just what kinds of travels I'd like to do in the future.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, we can do a bit of a chronological rundown of the trip, and then we can discuss some anecdotes from here and there.
Yeah.
But so I landed in New Delhi like roughly a week before Christmas, and I was there for just 1 day, and it was a bit of a fiasco when I arrived to the airport, because I had no working mobile data there, obviously, and I also couldn't get the airport Wi-Fi working, which was a bit of a bummer, and it took me several hours to get like everything sorted out regarding like cash, my card working, just being able to communicate with people be it calling them online, whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't say I had a mental breakdown at New Delhi International Airport, but it was it wasn't too far away.
Some sort of breakdown.
yeah, exactly. And that's when I discovered the true enlightenment of Buddha.
Nice.
Yeah. So the next day I catch a domestic flight this time, to this state called Chhattisgarh, which is roughly 1,000 kilometers south of New Delhi. and it's very much not a touristy state. So a lot of the locals were really surprised to see somebody looking like me in their home state, and that resulted in, shall we say, a plethora of people wanting to take photos with me and some of my other European friends that I was visiting with. We also had like 2 of our Indian friends there, not this guy, unfortunately, and they were sort of a security crew, like just in the background, you know, letting us European stars shine as we should. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, it was like a really well designed like travel week from my Indian friends. So if you're watching, thank you. You did excellent work in planning the week that we spent in Chhattisgarh, and I really enjoyed it.
Sounds good. Sounds really good. Yeah. And you did, you traveled there a lot. You went to one of the things, is a safari.
Yeah, right? Tiger safari.
Tiger safari. That was at the beginning of the trip, right?
Yeah, that was like maybe day 3 or 4, like very close to the beginning.
Nice. Was it the first time you saw a tiger in the wild?
It was indeed. Like, I've seen a tiger in the zoo maybe once or twice, but it's a different ball game when it's like,
of course,
no headgear, no gloves, no headgear.
No, true.
Yeah, it's
no gloves, not even 16 ounce.
Yeah,
8 ounce. No,
not even 6 ounce, bro. I was like,
crazy.
I know. Yeah, it was insane, but like, yeah, these were some bad boys. And on top of tigers, we also saw this like really extinct, not extinct, but like rare
panther.
Yeah, I think it was a black panther.
Nice.
Maybe a black leopard because commercial privileges.
Put a photo of it here.
Will do. And by
or whoever edits.
Yeah, exactly.
Put all the photos here of the trip.
Yeah. So anyways, after those first few days, that was when my, shall we say, less guided part of the trip started. So I was still with a friend of mine, but this time the friend wasn't Indian. He was actually a Dutch high school friend of mine. So we were basically 2 idiots in India, is what I believe would be a fair description. And we went to the north, we went to the Himalayas, Rishikesh, Haridwar, Shimla, Dharamshala. So basically the Indian Himalayas close to the Nepali and the Tibetan borders. Yeah, not Chinese, Tibetan.
Nice.
I know, it's very nice.
Interesting, yeah. And many cool things might have happened in the trip, I presume.
Definitely, yeah. Like,
how was your day-to-day travels actually? Like, how would you go from place to place?
Yeah, so that
a lot of trains, a lot of maybe more planes or buses.
That would depend a lot, but we would do pretty much like all imaginable modes of transportation, from rickshaws to planes and everything in between. But yeah, like a lot just depended on the distance, what we thought was most convenient, and when we could have a mutual understanding over the basic outline of the route with the driver. Because if we tell the driver to get us to Haridwar and he starts driving us in the opposite direction, it's not exactly a deal well gone. Totally didn't happen or anything. But yeah, I'd say the biggest sort of transportation blunder that me and my friend encountered was when we were trying to catch a bus from this town in the north of India called Ambala to Shimla, which is like in the Himalayas. It's like a very, very common hill station where people go during holidays.
Yep.
And we were supposed to catch this bus by this highway at like 2:30 a.m. And let's just say it didn't go down exactly as we planned it to go down. So what ended up happening was like it was probably past 3:30 a.m. So like more than an hour after the bus was supposed to come and pick us up. Me and my friend were just like really tired, really frustrated over the fact that we, for one reason or another, we missed the bus, even though we were there in like 2 hours before.
Time.
Yeah. So what we decided to do was to get a cab from Ambala to Shimla, which is like a 3-hour drive in the Indian Himalayas at dawn. Yeah, which was it was a really beautiful ride. Like we were quite tired, as you could imagine, so like that kind of took away from some of the pleasure in the experience, but we still really liked it. And then it's like probably 7 a.m. give or take, and then the sun has just come up, and me and my friend are arriving to this beautiful mountain village called Shimla.
Kind of ease the pain
of
the night before.
Exactly. But luckily, the taxis are insanely cheap in India by Western standards, so like that wasn't really an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. But the bus, like, oh man. It's I totally see it happening. But the thing, like, you told me this a few days ago, and I thought about it and realized now there's one factor you missed in your calculations.
Tell me.
Because clearly, like, it said, it's good to see, okay, it comes at 2:30 or 3:30, and you were there before that, that's fine. But the one factor you missed in your calculation is IST, Indian Standard Time.
Exactly.
So really, you should have shifted it 1 hour in ahead. And then you would be perfect, but you didn't do that.
It's not just IST, but also ISD, Indian Standard Delay, I believe.
Okay, yeah, that's also might be
another couple of hours. Just plug it in there.
Yeah. But see, it was exactly an hour late, right? So
give or take.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, come on.
The benefit of the doubt.
He's not like a bus driver that serves the public population. Like, let the guy.
We're not a part of the public population, exactly.
No, I mean, it's crazy, but like, that is one thing that's like, I was like, okay, that's fair. But the one thing that I was more shocked about when you told me is, when you said, when you give this mathematics of you took around 75 rickshaws in total. And only 2 or 3 of them use the meter.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, in India, so you have rickshaws, the things that go on 3 wheels.
Yeah.
That's essentially like it's like a Uber or like a cab.
Yeah.
And then people use it a lot to go from any kind of place, like from here until the end of the road, or from here until the next city. It's it makes quite a lot of sound. It's just open usually.
Yeah.
And it's just a way that's I don't know, just it's just has been for a few decades, I guess. And the thing how it works is normally what's legal is when you enter the taxi or the rickshaw, first you should you tell them where you need to go, and usually what happens is they go no, or they go yeah sure, and then you sit inside of it, and then what they should do is turn on the meter before starting the rickshaw, and then until you reach the destination, the meter is calculating how many kilometers it's been, and then it's calculating the fare, the rate that the passenger needs to pay.
That's why it's called a meter, not imperial system. Like, it's not a mile.
It's a meter, right? And then at the end you pay that much money, and then maybe you round it up or something. But that's basically the fee you need to pay, based on cost per kilometer and then starting fee. Standardized, good to use. And that's how it should be used, and that's how it is used. At least when I travel. And what's funny is like, for you, only 2 or 3 use it. When you said in the beginning only people like. They just told you the rate up front, with a meter.
But that being said,
I found was quite surprising.
The rates themselves were so low that at this point I don't even care if they scammed me a tiny bit, because like in the end it was still infinitely cheaper than what it would have been in a Western country. Yeah. But that is a good observation.
Yeah, I know it was funny. But I mean. You did some bargaining as well.
I did. For example, with this bad boy right here.
This and got your right rate, and you got your lawful rate. Well, sort of.
No. Like you just have to be more willing to walk away. That's negotiations 101.
Yeah.
Actually learned that from one great man called Donald Trump. Okay.
Nice.
The politics section is later.
This was 4,500 rupees.
And I bargained it down to 2,000, which is just over 20 euros in total. And I got like a nice bag, which would make it stay alive until coming back to Europe in my suitcase on the plane ride. So nice. I was quite happy with it.
Like 40 to 50% of the original price. Yeah. Pretty decent. Let us know in the comments if you think that was a good bargain. Especially if you're Indian. I really want to see that.
Haggle.
So, and what about you also said you met someone from the film industry.
Ooh, I did. So it turns out next month I'm flying away to Mumbai again, but this time it's covered by the film studios. But I met a lot of very cool, nice
spy thriller
young Indians from all walks of life in my travels, and one of them happens to be a screenwriter from Bollywood. Not going to name any names, but you know who you are. anyways, it was a real pleasure meeting you, and yes, I do accept the role. No, but like it was really interesting to like meet all kinds of people. Like I met Indian engineering students, and like I'd say their sort of ways of life were very similar to ours. But yeah, obviously you do see like people that are less fortunate in socioeconomic terms, but also maybe even more fortunate because there's also like a big upper class in India. But yeah, just a lot of very insightful people that had like sort of something unique about their beliefs that sort of stood out from my very, I guess, Western 21st century lens, but it wasn't like sort of judgmental, those encounters where I would maybe disagree with somebody over whatever, but we would just hear each other out and maybe learn from each other. And that's what Copilots is all about in the end, huh?
Nice. It's about learning, it's about progressing, improving yourself.
Let's see what else. We did have a few amusing blunders where, for example, the first hotel that my friend booked was right next to a landfill, like this massive 200 by 300 meters landfill.
Why?
I should say he's not the best with maps, like reading through the reviews of the hotel. So the smell was interesting, to say the least. Yeah, and it's really awful because, you know, some people, they burn the trash, which doesn't exactly alleviate the smell, so that happened a couple of times. So from there on out, I was in charge of the bookings.
Did you book on the go? Or
we did a bit of bookings on the go, especially like towards the end when it was mainly me solo traveling in the south. But yeah, I'd say most of the bookings me and my friend did have at least a week or two in advance.
Booking.com or like what kind of?
Yeah, actually that was the main website. Sponsor us.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, we used Booking.com quite a bit. Maybe this place called hostelworld.com as well, a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no Airbnbs this time. There would have been some cool ones, but like we were usually going from one destination to another in like 1 to 3 days, so like it maybe wouldn't have been worth getting an Airbnb because it's still a bit pricier.
Fair.
But yeah, no, Booking.com actually served us really well, apart from the landfill incident.
I don't know who you're pointing to.
It's Liam.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, and then like to wrap things up, after India, I went to Taiwan. I flew there via Singapore, and I spent like roughly 5-6 days in the country. I was meeting a Dutch friend of mine who's currently living and working there. It's a long story. And then on the way back, I got to see Hong Kong because, I mean, who wouldn't want to see Hong Kong?
You got to see, or you just went to Hong Kong?
I got to see it.
You got to see it.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm still simping for Hong Kong.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say like to condense all of that, I would say traveling can be sort of eye-opening. You really do have to sort of expose yourself to different cultures, or otherwise I don't think you're going to enjoy it as much, and at least you're not getting as much out of it as you can when you're open-minded. But that actually made me want to ask you about like your experiences traveling as an Indian immigrant to the West. Like what have been some of the more, I guess, notable travel experiences of your life where you've maybe felt like your eyes have been opened a bit wider?
Yeah, it's interesting to think. Like traveling is it's so easy these days in the sense that you can just kind of travel to so many places on Earth that, you know, are so difficult to get by. You know, if you were only 200 years before born, and now it's like you can get to so many places with trains, planes, and cars.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of things more possible, which is it's crazy because you know, what I find fascinating in a way is that like at least where I was born, like in India, and you know, you get brought up in a certain environment. You know, the color of the trees, the color of the soil, how the rain is, or you know, things like this, really environmental conditions, and also human conditions, like how people look, how people talk, you know, all these things, represent a geographical place, I guess, like in a location. And then once you just leave that and go far away with a plane and end up in a different location, you're like, wait, there's also humans here who do the same thing, but like they look different, like the language is different, the geography is different, the color of the trees is a bit different, the soil looks a bit different, the mountains are a bit different, and you notice these changes, and you're like, you kind of get a sense of the scale of the world in a way.
Yeah.
And what's a great way to represent that, I think, is humans in a way, because we have gone to so many parts of the world and sort of adapted over time. And then people, people who live near the mountains, for example, they're like accustomed to living at high altitudes, and then their bodies are really familiar and more easy to breathe. Yeah, for example, and acclimatize. That's the right word.
Exactly.
Compared to people who are not in those terrains. So it's crazy to see that, and I don't know. Traveling kind of makes you realize that like there's more to where you are currently, and I know that's obviously like. Clearly that of course, bro, but it makes you see the rest of the world, and the nice thing is usually when you're traveling you don't live there for a long time, so you get to see a snippet of the world, and I think that's fine and perfect as is, because you don't need to see, you don't need to live there, you just kind of get to see how it is. And
exactly.
I think that gives you a good insight into how society works there. And for me, when I was moving from India to Europe, like I was a little kid, I didn't really, to be honest, the main thing that I cared about was going in a plane. Because I was like, cool. And even more so, I knew you could play games on the seats you have.
Exactly.
I was like,
the screen.
Sick. Yeah, I would have played those games.
Yeah, exactly.
And watch movies, because like it's basically like a theater.
Exactly.
So, I saw it from that point of view when I was a kid, and when you come here, it's just, you kind of realize that, there's just like, humans are just everywhere, and in different shapes and forms, and like in so many different conditions, and I think that's just something really cool to see. So that's how I sort of saw it, and like the same society kind of exists, but you just have a different language, a different medium of communication, but still the same like species. So I think that's really cool.
And I guess the way a kid would observe a society is like very much like subconscious, so you're not like thinking about like, oh yeah, let me analyze this aspect of the society that I'm going to. It's just like, how do people, there's people here, cool, how do they speak, can I communicate to them, what kind of, I don't know, movies, games do they like if you're a kid.
Exactly.
It's like a very sort of a bottom up approach.
Because you don't necessarily need to care about anything else. And that's the thing. What I like about traveling is like, people talk about it, and people say they like traveling, or they like to do this, or they go there. But at the end of the day, like it's really about that experience of traveling that I think a lot of people enjoy generally, even if they don't have to like it in a similar way as someone else. But exactly. It's still a very there's something about it, because humans are also known to be like nomads, right? Like we are always moving around. So are all the animals, but humans more so just always
exactly.
moving
We're better
around.
at it.
And especially
taking zebras and ostriches.
Only 350 kilos. I'll come up to my weight.
Nice.
Cruiser weight now. Away from the zebras, but run. I forgot what I was saying.
Okay, don't worry, I think I can take it from here. But like maybe one thing that I find as a sort of potential pitfall that a lot of people that travel say as much as I do is that it sort of becomes this dominating aspect about your personality, and that's maybe not a look that I'd like for myself, and I think a lot of people might be a bit sort of conscious about like not being only known as like a traveler guy or girl, because like there's still more to life, and also I think it's sort of more important to have a lot of places go through you than you going through a lot of places. I'm basically modifying the saying about like it's more important the number of books that go through you as opposed to the number of books that you go through or you read through.
Right.
Yeah, so I think like if you're just traveling for the sake of traveling and like ticking off countries or cities or whatever national parks, at some point you're sort of gonna stop appreciating the differences and the nuances of each place, and you're just doing it sort of in a gamified way where you just want to achieve more and like unlock more achievements, I guess.
And the thing is, like, if you do enjoy traveling more, like in your case, for example, and you enjoy that aspect of it, that's great and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because then that's your way of experiencing the world in a certain way, and that's if that means something to you, I mean, keep doing it. You know, like there's nothing. Who cares if people judge? I would say, because what I would say, like, it's more about also maybe a sense of movement. It's nice to have movement, and traveling gives you that.
Yeah,
like,
it really
looking
does.
outside of a window when you're moving, you're like, I'm moving.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see, like, you go past so many places that like you could stop at and spend hours of your life or your whole life at, but you don't. You just go past them.
Yeah.
And it gives you a sense of like, man, it's so big. The whole world is really big, actually. And I think it's great to see it that way as well. And even if you're not traveling to different countries, even if you're like taking the train every day, you're moving around, and I think that's also traveling, technically. And it might become mundane, but like, man, if you take that away, I think people really would miss that.
I fully agree. I think with COVID we kind of saw that. Like, obviously the lack of travel wasn't the only problem with COVID and the lockdowns and everything, but still it was definitely something that a lot of people, I think ourselves included, missed.
True.
And it's always sort of really cool to meet those people who find your lifestyle and just the way you perceive the world as exotic as you find their way of perceiving the world. So like me talking to somebody in the south of India that's never met a European before, never mind talk to one. Like it's very exotic to me, but it's also very exotic to him. And he would find, I guess, my living arrangement and my whole life story very peculiar, just like I found his. Yeah. So it's like sort of a symmetry of exoticism in a way.
True.
It's too much bullshit, I'm sorry.
But yeah, that sounds, I mean, that's I guess a profound meaning to traveling in a way. That maybe, you know, it's just such a, in the back of a human's mind, I think it's just like kind of you know, I don't know how to say it, but it's like it's just kind of always been there in a way. And I don't want to sound cliche by talking about it, but like you gotta talk about it to address it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It truly is something that I think it's really cool to see. That's what I would say.
And hey, like we're, as aerospace engineers, we kind of enable it.
Yeah.
I mean, not us per se, but just us.
Literally us.
Literally
only us.
Yeah.
We have the recipe to flight.
Yeah.
You know how Coca-Cola has the recipe and we have that for flight.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anything happens to us, not gonna fly anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying.
But I guess that sort of bridges it to a topic of aerospace.
Yeah. Some things happened.
Yeah.
Or something happened.
Something, not gonna mention an adjective here, happened.
Yeah.
At TU Delft, Faculty of Aerospace Engineering.
Let's talk about it because I saw this when I think it was just I saw it on was it a story or something? I got a notification from somewhere and then I read the whole TU Delft, what TU Delft was doing, and it was more of a message of this is what TU Delft is doing, and it was an announcement.
Yeah.
And then I read through it, and I had some thoughts, and actually I remember now how it was. Someone sent it in a friends group chat, and then that's how I read it. And then people were discussing it already.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what is this? And then we had some topics and we discussed it then. But it essentially the if you sum it down, sum it up.
Sum it down.
For the Aerospace Engineering faculty of TU Delft, they introduced a
gender
quota, which basically ensures that 30% is for females.
Yeah.
Starting from the next academic year.
Yeah.
And this would be applicable, I guess, for the well, could be also for the master, but
yeah. So far, I think just the bachelor.
Just
program.
the bachelor program of aerospace, which takes around 440 seats every year.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I was a tiny bit surprised, I'd have to say, because I'd imagine that a technical university like TU Delft, for example, wouldn't be as sort of, I guess, ready to hop on board something that's sort of ideological like this. Like I know that academia, especially the humanities, are highly sort of polarized and quite ideological these days. And I felt like being here in Delft for the past couple of years that Delft, well, specifically TU Delft, the university itself, was maybe sort of less exposed to the ideology of the time. And yeah, obviously there's like very valid arguments both for and against gender quotas, but I'd say my first reaction was like maybe mixed, sort of on the critical side, just because it sort of goes contrary to the pure meritocratic sort of way of measuring one's performance. Even though I'm sure that these women that will be enrolled from next year onwards will eventually become fully qualified engineers. No doubt about that. But yeah, it was somewhat surprising to me. Like I wouldn't have imagined TU Delft doing something like this already.
Yeah, I also was a bit surprised in the way that it was presented, actually, because it was more like a statement. It was like, this is happening. And
basically the conversation was already over.
It was already over, but I felt like it was never started.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't have to be started in an open sense for everyone to comment on, but I thought there should have been some sort of prerequisite or something that happened before this, like hey, what is your opinion, to get students' opinion on something matter that's going to eventually affect them and their successors in a way, their new students.
I feel like maybe they just didn't want to expose something like this to like the full democracy of TU Delft student populace, because like not everyone is qualified to give an analysis about it. Like hell, I don't know if we are.
Fair enough.
But still.
Fair enough. But when it came out, just the way, that's how I interpret it. It came out of like out of nowhere, like and it was like a statement. And the thing was, I get what it is trying to achieve. I get the sort of the direction of the vision, or more or less what it's trying to do, which makes sense to me in the sense that yes, we should have more access and opportunity for education, and you should have more. You should promote different educations to both genders, equally, and then I get that perspective of it. So that is clear to me, and I'm not against that in any way.
Yeah, obviously, like we're totally fine with women in the university, and we're more than happy to have more.
Yeah, and that goes without saying, but I want to address that before I criticize on it, because I just didn't think that was the best way to achieve that. Yeah, and of course, there's many solutions to a problem per se, but it was like I always think that these sorts of reservations, for example, it's a shortcut solution. Is the best what I would call it. Yeah. You can call it a short-term solution. It shows if you do 30%, that next year already you have like 30% women, 70% male, compared to last year, which was maybe 20% or 15%. Usually. And you see, look, diversity, and you achieve diversity in that way, but it's really a bit. Forced.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, equality of opportunity doesn't always imply equality of outcome. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing here.
Exactly, because this quota guarantees equality of outcome more than opportunity.
Exactly.
And I would say that giving the opportunity equality is a far better long-term solution. And I think these kind of things need a good long-term solution, because if people see, okay, this is what we can do in the short term. It becomes sort of like the only solution, and what will happen later on, we'll see. But these reservations don't go away, because it's meant to be temporary, to get some boost and get a there was some theory behind it, like the minority theory, and then 30% is a limit,
critical mass,
right? that sounds good on theory, but I've seen this happen in India as well for reservations, where some things are reservation meant to be temporary to boost something. But over time, it always stays.
Yeah, like pre-existing benefits are hard to be like
exactly.
removed.
And then you focus on the short-term solution so much that it becomes impossible to ever talk about the long-term stuff.
Yeah.
And in the end, you spend a long-term time still on the short-term solution.
Yeah.
So in the end, short-term you can show like, look, we got diversity, but it should never be a thing to achieve. It should be like an outcome of something.
Yeah, exactly.
When you have good opportunity, you get diversity as a result. So if you this way, you just kind of trying to get diversity to show, look, we're so diverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think a bit defeats the purpose, and I definitely think isn't the only solution to go about it. So yeah, all in all, I mean the main thing that concerns me and us is the whole system to be more fair, so that we can all as a society achieve good improvement as a whole, and
treat each other equally,
and then we have a fair process, and that's what it mainly comes down to, I think, and where our views come from.
Yeah,
perhaps. But yeah, it's been
I can
a good discussion.
co-sign that.
Nice. Which brings us to
the ending. So, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to the episode 3 of the season 2, The Climb of the Copilots. I've been your host Topias with my friend Dishwa, and this has been the Copilots signing out.
Beautiful. Nice. Good shit.
Very good shit.